guys. My name is Clint Heffron.
I'm Matt Shea.
I'm Jordan Palmer. How many of you guys have ever gone abroad or to a different country? Ooh, very nice. So I'm guessing a lot of you are familiar with a lot of different cultures. Anybody ever been to China? Okay, that's all right. I didn't think a lot of people would. But basically, I'm going to make the assumption that a lot of you are familiar with the fact that China is an economic superpower, right? And every day, thousands of American businesses do business with thousands of Chinese corporations. So what we thought would be very helpful was just to learn about the Chinese culture and negotiations that go on between China and America. So our agenda is basically going to outline the understanding of the Chinese culture. It's very complex, so we're going to hit some big points. And then we're also going to talk about differences between American and Chinese business practices. A common trend that often leads to the breakdown of negotiations between American and Chinese businesses is the failure of Americans to see the broad context of Chinese culture. Also, as we learned in Chapter 1, episode can, in some cases, play a role in negotiations and can lead to misconceptions. Oftentimes, American misconceptions of Chinese businesses are that they are inefficient and even dishonest, while Chinese misconceptions are that Americans are excitable, impersonal, and even aggressive. There are 4 threads of culture that make up the Chinese culture, the first being agrarianism. 2/3 of the Chinese population live in rural areas and basically survive by cultivation of wheat and rice. They have to work together and cooperate to survive, and this is something that is built into the Chinese business model. Also morality. Anybody familiar with Confucius? Okay, there we go. He proposed that there are 5 different types of relationships. The first, ruler to subject, then you have husband to wife, parent to child, older brother to younger brother, and friend to friend. As many of you may have noticed, all of those are from a hierarchical position to a lower position with the exception of friend to friend, and that is something that is very important in Chinese businesses. Also, Lao Tzu, another Chinese philosopher, proposed Taoism, which is essentially that the world is split into yin and yang, and yin represents a darker passive force and cold women, and yang is a lighter, more active force, men. And there is no meshing or separation of these two, and that the only way to keep going on is through negotiation and haggling, which is a huge part of the Chinese business model. Also, the Chinese pictographic language, which unlike our phonetic alphabet, it basically structures every single word into a different picture. So that really helps with a holistic understanding and learning of things, and that plays a huge role. And the final thread is awareness of foreigners. Over a long history, China has definitely had an interesting relationship with people coming onto its shores, and it's just kind of been built into the structure of the culture. There are 8 elements that will arise that you guys probably need to know when doing negotiations in China, and also just about the culture. And so we're going to hit on those points. It's very important for negotiations, and without further ado, you're going to take that.
Thank you very much, Jordan. And out of all these 8 elements that are listed, we found 5 of them to be extremely important. First of all is Guanxi. You need to bear with us on these names, not native Chinese speakers. But what Guanxi is a personal connection. And this pretty much is the foundation and the establishment for the relationship you're going to have with your Chinese associates. And the Chinese have a very heavy emphasis on relationship, friends, and family. They really want to get to know who you are as a person, not only as a business associate, because that's really the basis which they think they can sign a contract with you. Secondly, Guanxi allows both parties to feel very comfortable. Like, you want to approach the table and feel like the person you're going into business with is someone trustworthy, and Guanxi helps people establish that. The second element is Zhongjian Ren, and this literally translates to intermediary. And this is a person who can be a common business associate, which both an American party and a Chinese party have previously worked with. So both parties feel comfortable with having this person in a meeting, and this person's purpose is to serve as not a mediator between the 2 parties, but sort of as a cultural interpreter. Coming from an American perspective, Americans don't always understand a lot of Chinese customs, and typically the intermediary is a native Chinese speaker who can understand the Chinese aspect of business and the way they like to conduct themselves, and it is their job to inform the Americans if they've maybe hit kind of a red topic that they don't want to talk about, or if they're shifting the conversation away from what they were mentioning. Suspicion and distrust fuel all meetings with strangers, and trust is earned in Chinese business. So going into a meeting, you're at ground zero. You have no basis to get your point across. You're working your way up, and it's a battle to earn trust in Chinese business. Thirdly, there is Renji Hexi, and this translates to interpersonal harmony. And as far as relationships go, this is probably the single most important aspect of that. It literally is the process of building and maintaining a relationship. In China, they have a very different time frame than here in America. In America, we try and get in and out, go right down the checklist, and get the deal done as quickly as possible. But in China, they have no problem taking weeks, months, or in some cases even years trying to get a deal done. And while that time is underway, what they like to do is take you out to dinner. They like to, in some cases, go drinking with you. They like to take you to sporting events and really break down who you are outside of business and make sure, again, as I said, they're getting into business with somebody whom they can trust.
All right, thank you, Matt. The fourth element that we wanted to discuss today is called Jizhen, which is translated literally as thrift. And in the Chinese culture, one of the main focal points in their economic practices is saving money. One American study found that typically the average Chinese household saves 4 times as much as the typical American house. And one of the byproducts of saving money in Chinese culture is a heavy tendency in bargaining in all kinds of business forms, even the professional business model today that we see between American businesses and Chinese ones. So why this is important for knowing for a American business professional is that typically in negotiations between Americans and Chinese in the business world is that Chinese business professionals will open up with usually either really high or really low financial statements. And it's important for Westerners to know not to be thrown off by these initial prices, because the Chinese do intend to bargain these prices either up or down. In fact, I was reading a study during my research that an American software company was trading with a Chinese computer corporation over in Beijing. And the initial price for the software that they were trying to buy from the Americans was $2 million. And after about a month of negotiating and patience from the American side, they were able to bump that price up to $4 million, which is pretty impressive. The fifth and final element that we wanted to discuss is called mianzi, which is defined as face in Chinese. And it doesn't really mean face, it more represents a Chinese person's image or dignity. And these two aspects in Chinese culture are very important to a person's self-image, to their colleagues, and to other business professionals. And one of the worst mistakes an American business associate can do is to insult or embarrass a Chinese person, and in doing so would hurt the Chinese associate's mianzi, or face. To lose face is to lose your honor or respect, and it's not merely a fox paws to do this. It could really just ruin a deal with Chinese business associates. So to kind of wrap things up, we wanted to give you guys a quote from one of the famous philosophers, Aristotle, who stated, "The secret of business is to know something that nobody else knows." And go to the next slide. We're not saying that no one else knows how to deal with Chinese business associates, but the whole point of that statement is to say that if you know something that other business people in America don't know, it can give you the upper hand against your competitors. And another advantage to knowing these 5 elements in dealing with Chinese business professionals is understanding one foreign culture aids in understanding how the international business community functions and works. And it helps you understand that in order to trade with other foreign powers, you have to kind of understand where they come from and how they conduct their business. And if you guys have no questions, we are done with our presentation. Thank you for your time.